Hey, everybody, we are back with the Candlepower Hour with a special edition for entertainment industry and the impact that this incredible time and shutdown is having on us all. We have a very special guest. Mariah Petzoldt is with us. She is a longtime union worker in the industry. She's a part of Local 728, lighting industry in television and theater. She's also a real estate agent, and she works in Southern California. She has a lot of insight into what's going on for people in production. And we're here today to talk to you all about this shutdown, the effect that it's having on families and entertainment employees, and what we can all do, hopefully together and individuals, to get through this time, because these times are changing. And so let's just say hello to Mariah, and we'll get started right away. Thank you for coming on the show, Mariah.
Thank you, Diego. It is a pleasure to be here with you.
It's a pleasure to have you on. This is very important. Real quick, you were saying the industry had a big change for you and how you got started in the last 20 years. So let's catch up real quick about you and how you got into this industry.
Yeah, we were just chatting before you started filming, and I was just saying how I think the buzzword right now is AI. Like AI has changed everything, but it's really the umbrella of technology. So coming from, gosh, 20 some years ago, where I started in theater, we were using par cans and Lecos, even doing concerts back then. I started out as a stagehand doing concerts at my local theater back in Virginia. So like even then, we were still using par cans and Lecos mainly, in big Super Troopers. And then it evolved, right? It evolved into smart lights, movers, and that evolved into LEDs. I'm former 728. I've been out for about 10 years. And I know just in that 10-year span, like the spotlights that you guys use are, smart spotlights. If I walked in, I wouldn't be able to know how to run that at this point. It's just like everything evolves. I mean, my very first job in Hollywood was as a film loader, and like talk about being obsolete. That went away. That was used for decades. Everybody was shooting movies on film, and then it was like overnight almost that everybody switched to video.
Right.
And even when I was younger, I was running around with like a Super 8 and like the cameras that had those little DV cassette tapes. My kids, they're running around shooting their own movies on iPhones and editing. You can do all that from your phone. So just the technology change in the last 20 years has been massive. And that has as much of an impact on all of this as it does kind of everything else that we'll get into as well. But all of those things change our industry. They change the jobs that are available. I mean, nobody's loading film anymore,
That was a big effect on the industry. Absolutely. To go from the conventional lighting world to the moving light, the LED, the digital world, the world of DMX, that absolutely had an effect on so many people, including myself. I fell in. I saw the television industry go as well from conventional to where we are today. And I'm not, I didn't follow the technology as well as the kids. I didn't learn to adapt. I'm more of an old school guy. So I get it. The industry definitely had its impact with technology, which doesn't help, like you said, when it comes to today's world and what's happening with this industry shutdown, which is what we're talking about. And so in your experiences in the union, Mariah, what have you seen change since you've been in, and what do you see change since COVID? Because a lot of this stuff started talking about COVID, and we'll get into that too.
Right. Right. Well, from my experience, right? I said I was from Virginia. I moved to Los Angeles from Atlanta. So that was in 2005. I've been here 21 years. At that point, right before I moved, I moved to LA because Atlanta was not busy. It was not booming. It didn't keep me busy. And so right after I moved to LA, that's when Marvel built the studios in Atlanta. Atlanta became this big hub. We have seen kind of different cities and different places start growing. So that's definitely something to take into consideration, is that what used to be just LA as being the major hub, it's kind of sprawled out into other areas. Um, but then as far as like when COVID and we had the actual shutdowns where nobody could leave the house and nobody was making anything, that was a super scary point for everyone. And I remember checking in on all of my buddies and calling them and, wellness checks like, hey, are you all right? What was wild is think we live kind of in a bubble in LA, right? And people that live in other areas, they don't necessarily know what's happening out here, or the fact that we're not back to work, because they just turn on Netflix, they just turn on their TV and their shows. So they don't really understand or comprehend kind of, oh my God, like these people haven't worked. Um, but that was kind of the beginning, right? It was COVID, was the strikes, was all of that prolonged time where nobody was actually working, nobody was going to do any productions, and I feel like we've never really caught our footing again since then. I don't know. Do you think that we've gone back to as busy as it was since then?
No. Um, what I see happened, and for a lot of folks who don't, like Mariah said, a lot of folks at home don't understand what happened in this industry. And yes, not only did it happen in Los Angeles, but it happened stateswide and worldwide with show business. We did start losing a lot of gigs to Atlanta and Vancouver and other cities all over, and that happens. For a lot of us, though, when COVID hit, like the world, it started with a rumor. It started with a news report that a pandemic is coming. It's about to hit. For us in Hollywood, it hit in a very profound way, because starting with those rumors, that's what they became. And then the reality hit with one show closing their doors, and then another show closes. And by the time the weeks and the month are gone, you started seeing a complete industry shutdown. And not only was it from the television stages, the sound stages, it was theatrical, it was the concert industry, the touring industry.
That
It was profound.
So that's the interesting thing actually now, Diego, right? Is that, I worked in the music industry as well, and I have a lot of friends that are in bands. And so it was impacting everyone that we know in film and television. It was impacting everybody that we know that were performers, because they couldn't perform. Everybody was stuck. What's different now is that the performers are doing well, because live shows, they're still happening. So even though we're feeling the effects of, there's not sitcoms being made, there's not a bunch of movies, there's not a lot of things for us, there's still a lot of live performances going on. And the people that I
Celebrity,
know that are in the theatrical industry, like they're working well. As far as I have heard, and as far as I know, they're all being consistent, which is interesting right now.
I agree. And here's the irony is that when the entire industry shut down, it was the television industry, our industry, that came back flying during COVID, because the
Right.
producers and the local unions and everybody involved established protocols and guidelines that brought production back to Hollywood so we can have television. So when all the other industries were shut down, like Mariah said, we were thriving. Now, the complete opposite has taken place. COVID is gone. So much has happened that as busy as we were, and you ask if it's returned, I say no, because it returned big, but then it bottomed out. And here we are today because of
Yeah.
many aspects, AI,
Right.
Netflix. So tell us, Mariah, in your opinion, because you got out of this business and you became a realtor. So we need to talk about this, how it affects the working class, the unions, the folks who have been blessed with these careers. How do we navigate through this?
It's so tricky. It's a very sensitive topic because the coolest thing that I will say about working in the industry and working with industry professionals is that we are a bunch of creatives, right? We're our identity is so tied to the industry because we're movie makers and we're making this magic every day, and every day it's something new, right? It's not your basic 9 to 5. So when we lose our job, it's not losing a job. It's like kind of losing part of yourself. So it's so sensitive. I
It's
can say
heartbreaking.
it is absolutely heartbreaking. Um, what I have seen in the past few years is this. In the recent years, so from COVID to 2 years ago, most of what I was working with client wise in the industry was my clients that were interested in selling their home in California, moving somewhere else that was a bit more cost effective, Florida, wherever they wanted to go, buying a home, using the equity that they made off their home, buying it, setting up their family, and then they would commute. They would commute. They would fly back here for 3 months, work on a show, fly back home, live it up, be able to live off of that money for a hell of a lot longer than they would in LA, right? So better life for their family. And that was pretty consistent up until a couple of years ago. And then just a couple of years ago, we have had more of an impact, right? Less shows, less things going on. And so even those people that I helped relocate and commute back and forth, even they're struggling to be able to commute back here and make it work because there's not as many shows. What I'm seeing is that I'm seeing a lot of people call me now that are losing their house. I'm seeing a lot of people. There's one client recently who had to sell her house because she was a couple $100,000 in debt. And she needed to sell her house to pay off some of that debt and move her and her two daughters into a rental because she hasn't worked for the last 2 years, and it's so hard, right? Because gosh, this is like a nutshell. It's an onion of lots of layers of stuff to unpack because not only is it again an identity to the film industry, so there's a lot of people that are holding on, and even though they haven't worked for 2 years, they still think, okay, well, when is it going to come back? When is it going to come back? Even at the detriment, right, of losing their house, of going into major debt and like life-changing debt. And it's hard. I don't have a crystal ball. I wish that I could say it's coming back. My gut tells me at this point, I don't think that we're ever going to see the boom that it was in the past. I think that we are reaching this weird new norm where there's going to be a lot less production, which means that it's going to be kind of cutthroat. when it comes to people getting hired. Um, and it's going to cause a lot of our industry professionals to pivot, to pivot and figure out what other career choices can I do? What is something else that I can do instead? The lucky ones that have a home that they own here in Los Angeles, that haven't gotten into a lot of debt, that actually have that equity, like that is the golden ticket. That's the golden ticket that I hope that you can like hold on to if you have that and be able to take it, because even if you are not moving out of state, with the knowing that you can commute back and forth to LA and work, or wherever and work in the industry, you can take that equity, that amazing equity that we make out here in California, you can take that to somewhere else and live off of it for a really long time while you figure out what your next move is going to be, like what not move, but like what your next job, what your next life chapter basically will be from there. That is really, that's the ticket from this.
It makes sense, because what you said earlier is very profound. People who work behind the scenes in this business, they follow their dreams just like actors and singers and performers. So many people dream about being in show business behind the scenes. And for this industry to literally collapse the way it has recently can be very upsetting and very, it can take a toll on your mental health as well. And so it's very important for folks to remain focused and listen to what we're saying, what Mariah is saying, and to stay above the above it all, and so that way you can plot your future, where we don't know what's going on. We hear rumors. We know that the unions are struggling because workers are delinquent in their dues. If you're not
I mean,
working, you can't pay
you're
dues.
not
And
paying
in
it,
order to maintain a functioning union local, you have to have your dues paid, because that's how
right?
you get your motion picture health and welfare, your benefits. And for your dream career to come to such an abrupt halt, it can be very, very frustrating, especially when it comes to the livelihood and the longevity of your career.
I
That
mean,
was
the mental health aspect of this is everything, Diego. Like I
it's
know that we know people who unfortunately have taken their lives from this. We know people that are not doing great. I would say most people are feeling very lost and feeling very depressed and feeling like their whole world is shattering right now. And I don't take that lightly. I'm so I'm so vested in the industry. And then you have all the ripple effects, right? So I work all of Los Angeles. I live in Santa Clarita. Santa Clarita holds a massive hub of crew, of grips, and like everybody lives out here. So when they're not spending the money at all these other businesses, all these local businesses, all the local businesses are also suffering. It's a ripple effect. It's a economy problem here right now.
it's nationwide, but it has affected Los Angeles enormously, because again, we were once the absolute capital of show business, and to get a career in this business, you had to live in LA.
Yeah.
And so the enormous impact that it has on our city and the people, is profound, and so it is important to stay focused, to not let your mental health affect you. Seek therapy, talk to somebody, talk to family, plot. You have to think about your next moves,
Yeah.
and where you're going to end up if this industry continues to bottom out the way it is. So we're very concerned here. We come from show business, everybody on this podcast, and we care about this situation. So it's hard to continue on this conversation because we know how negative it is. So
Absolutely. And the the God's honest truth is that all we can do is be there for each other and talk about it. I know that is not the easiest thing for a lot of people to do. I know, especially the male people, but it is so important to talk to people, and it doesn't have to be a therapist, but like talk about what's going on and what you're feeling and what you're thinking, and talk to people about having some sort of a plan in place.
talk to folks, have a plan, but also we get carried away with this business, and we've learned, and a lot of times we do take it for granted, and a lot of us have been so blessed that we've rolled so hard in our careers that when everything comes to a screeching halt and the money stops coming in and now you're fending to get your bills paid, to get your mortgage paid, I want to let everybody know that it's okay to reach out for help. It's okay to drive to a food bank. It's okay to accept help, accept resources, seek community, seek a church. It's very important to stay focused and to keep your mind intact. I personally have been having a hell of a problem dealing with this industry shutdown. It affects everybody. So I just want everybody out here and there to know that we're all in this together. If you work in show business, it doesn't matter what state you're in, what country you're in, what local, if you're union or non-union. We support non-union work too. Everybody
Yeah,
is
of
fending for
course.
themselves right now. And so if you need
We're kind of all
assistance,
in it together.
yeah, we're all
Yeah,
holding it together. If you need assistance, if you need advice from Mariah, you can reach out to her at
absolutely.
redmariah.com. That's MARIAH, Mariah, redmariah.com. She's also on Instagram. You can follow her, Red Mariah. She has some amazing advice. She can help you get through this if you're struggling or if you need to formulate a plan of some sort. Reach out to us, drop us a line, a message, and look out for yourselves, everybody. This is we're in profound times. We're going to get through this. We will all figure it out. Hopefully, the celebrities who are still thriving can understand that it takes a crew, it takes a village, and I think we will all get through this together. Mariah, thank you for coming on this podcast and explaining to us what's going on, and I do believe we'll get through this together.
Yeah, everything is evolving and we have to figure out how to evolve with it. But I am always happy to be a resource for anyone. I'm a free resource. You can call me and just talk to me and we can try and figure out the best strategy for you. That's the thing about talking to other people like us, is that we might have information that you don't know that could really help.
Yeah,
So this
definitely.
is why we're here.
Yeah, that's why we're here, everybody, and we will carry on this conversation. We're going to have some other guests on to talk about this, and so again, tune in to the Candlepower Hour, surviving show business. We're all in this together. Mariah, thank you so much for coming on to this show, the
Thank you,
podcast,
Diego.
and join us again. I know we're going to have a lot of more questions for you, so We'll talk to you soon. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Bye.
All right, everybody. The Candlepower Hour. Love you all. Peace. See you on the next one. Bye.
Electric acid.